The war had been raging for years. It was a conflict unlike any other in the history of the galaxy. Two advanced alien species, the Khorne and the Xylar, had been locked in a bitter struggle for dominance over a distant star system. Planets had been torn apart, and entire fleets had been annihilated. Neither side seemed willing to give up, and the war only seemed to grow more brutal with time. But then humans entered the equation. The Khorne and Xylar had fought wars before, but they had never encountered anything like humanity. To them, Earth was just another small, insignificant planet, barely worth noticing in the grand scheme of the universe. But when the humans received a distress signal from a neutral colony caught in the middle of the war, they reacted immediately. They were a young species, full of determination and fire, and they refused to watch as innocent lives were destroyed. When the first human ships entered the system, the Khorne and Xylar didn't know what to make of them. Their technology was crude compared to the advanced fleets of the two alien factions. But humans had something the Khorne and Xylar had long forgotten, the spirit to fight for what was right. That humans didn't enter the war seeking power or wealth. They fought because they couldn't stand by and watch the destruction any longer. The Khorne, a race of brutal warriors, were the first to engage. They sent their fleets, massive warships bristling with weaponry, into battle. At first, the humans seemed outmatched. Their ships were small, barely capable of holding their own against the Khorne's firepower. But humans were unpredictable. They didn't fight according to the usual strategies. Instead, they used their wits, their resourcefulness, and most of all, their sheer will to win. The first battle was over in hours. The Khorne were shocked by the tenacity of the humans. They had underestimated their new foes, and the humans quickly made their mark. The Khorne's massive battleships were destroyed one by one, their crew members overwhelmed by human tactics. The Khorne, who had been used to crushing their enemies with brute force, didn't know how to handle an opponent who could think outside the box. As the Khorne fleets were decimated, the Xylar watched in disbelief. They had been observing the conflict from the sidelines, waiting for the Khorne to destroy each other so they could swoop in and claim victory. But now, they faced an entirely new enemy, a species unlike anything they had ever seen before. The Xylar had superior technology, but they didn't have the human spirit. They hesitated. For the first time in the long history of the war, both alien factions were forced to rethink their strategy. They had spent so many years fighting each other that they had lost sight of the bigger picture. The humans had shown them that there was more to war than technology and firepower. There was courage, there was unity, and above all, there was the willingness to fight for something greater than oneself. The Xylar knew they had to act quickly, or they would lose their advantage. They sent their own fleets into the fray, hoping that their advanced weaponry and tactics would be enough to hold off the humans. But once again, they were met with unexpected resistance. The humans fought with a ferocity that the Xylar couldn't understand. They didn't follow the predictable patterns of the Khorne of Xylar. They fought with heart, with the desperation that came from knowing this wasn't just a war. It was a fight for the future of the galaxy. The Xylar's ships felt just like the Khorne's had, their systems overwhelmed by human ingenuity. By the time the last Xylar ship was destroyed, the Khorne and Xylar both realized that they had made a grave mistake. They had assumed that their superior technology and experience would be enough to win the war, but they had never accounted for the human spirit. And in the end, that spirit had been the difference between victory and defeat. The galaxy, once torn apart by the endless war, was now silent. The humans had won. In a matter of hours, they had achieved what both the Khorne and the Xylar had been unable to do in years of fighting. It wasn't just a victory on the battlefield. It was a testament to the strength of humanity. The remaining leaders of the Khorne and Xylar met in the aftermath, knowing that they had no choice but to surrender. They offered peace, but they were too late. The humans had already set their terms. There would be no more war. The galaxy would be free from the violence that had plagued it for so long. The Khorne and Xylar would learn to coexist, or they would be left behind in the dust of history. In the years that followed, the humans worked tirelessly to rebuild the star system. They provided aid to the colonies, helped restore destroyed planets, and ensured that the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. They didn't demand anything in return, only that the galaxy be given a chance at peace. As for the Korn and Xylar, they knew they had been defeated by a force they could never have anticipated. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were forced to live with the consequences. But there was one thing they couldn't deny. The humans had brought a new hope to the galaxy, a hope that war could be ended and that peace could finally be achieved. And so, the galaxy moved forward. The war was over and humanity had shown the universe what it truly meant to fight for something greater than oneself.